Alrighty, good evening, good morning, wherever you are at. Welcome to What the Dead. It is I, the one and only Mr. CJ. Currently reporting here from the U.S. debt clock. Looks like today's date is January the 27th, the year 2020. It's actually about 2 o'clock in the morning where I am currently stationed. Let's see, I believe over in the East Coast. Y'all might be just waking up right now to get your, well, depending on when you go to work, I guess, kind of get your Monday started off there. But I've got some pretty interesting news here today having to do with credit or the FICO score. Your FICO score, I guess your credit score, you could say. Before we get into that, it looks like our U.S. national debt is currently sitting still at around 23 trillion, 216 billion, 269 million, and counting, going up. All right, 270 million as we speak. 23 trillion. So yeah, definitely a lot of numbers. If you like numbers, you'll definitely like this channel, that's for sure, because there's nothing but numbers here, everywhere. Numbers everywhere. But check this out, guys. Before I start bullshitting about stupid stuff, let's get into the important stuff. So I actually saw, this is actually straight from the New York Times, but this was in my phone, or on my phone's, I guess my phone service news, you could say, something like that. I'm not sure how to explain it right now, but what it's saying here, it says, hopefully I'm speaking into the mic, but it says your credit score may soon change. Here's why. That's basically the title of what I'm going to read here to you. You can definitely go and check this out yourself. Later on, I'll see if I can leave the link to the actual article here in the description. And actually, before I get into reading about what's going on with your credit score, please make sure you definitely like and subscribe to What the Debt, our channel here. We definitely appreciate it. And also, if you are interested in rating the current president, Mr. Donald Trump, Mr. DJ Trump, I like to call him. Again, check the link in the description. It's in regards to rate Donald Trump. You basically have the chance to get a Amazon gift card whenever you complete that task of rating Donald Trump, which it's basically, you don't have to pay for it, nothing like that. Literally takes about 2 minutes of your time. They just ask a few quick questions. But here we go. Again, this is on your credit score may soon change, and here's why. An article from the New York Times. But it says FICO is tweaking its all-important formula. Scores will rise for about 40 million people and drop for another 40 million. Let's see here. It's got actually a picture of different credit cards, debit cards, Master, Visa, etc. But it looks like the article is actually by Tara Siegel Bernard. I'm guessing from the New York Times. But it says your credit score, that all-important passport with the financial world, may be about to change. And it won't necessarily be because of anything you did or didn't do, which is usually the reason my credit score changes. But the Fair Isaac Corporation, that's basically FICO, the company that creates the widely used 3-digit FICO score, is tweaking its formula. Consumers in good financial standing should see their scores bounce a bit higher. But millions of people already in financial distress may experience a fall, meaning they'll have more trouble getting loans or will be able to pay for them, or actually will have to pay more for them. You can see more than likely, the interest there. Lenders use FICO scores to judge how likely you are to make timely payments on your loans. Oops. But they're also used in lots of other ways and can influence how much you pay for car insurance, to whether you're qualified to rent a new apartment. Don't rent an apartment. Don't do that, guys. Invest in a house. Get one of those rent-to-own houses. I think I might actually have a link for that also. But before we go on, don't do that. I mean, you can get an apartment if you like, but if you're really wanting to get set, I personally, real quick, going off note here, I personally was renting a very nice little house, 2 bedroom, 1 bathroom, for probably the last 6.5 years. I basically invested. It wasn't a whole lot of rent, but I invested over about $30,000 into that little house, which basically I'm no longer there anymore. It's no longer mine. Pretty much that $30,000, of course, went to the landlord, whatever. But we'll get into that another call. But just saying, here we go. That one really struck me for some reason. But it says the changes reported on Thursday by the Wall Street Journal don't alter the main ingredients of your score. Good. But they do take a more finely tuned view of certain financial behaviors that indicate signs of financial weakness. For example, consumers who consolidate their credit card debt into a personal loan and then run up the balance on their cards again will be judged more severely. The new scores reflect newest changes in consumer credit trends that we observed from our analysis of millions of credit files, said Dave Schallenberger, Vice President of Product Management at FICO, whose scores generally range from 300 to 850. The higher the better, of course. I'm not going to tell you my FICO score, though, right now. Let's just say we're average. We're in the middle. But here's what you need to know about the new credit scoring system. The title: Why change scores now? Question. FICO adjusts its scores every few years, drawing on consumer behavior and patterns that emerge from the vast trove of data it tracks. This time, the company is offering 2 new scores, FICO 10 and FICO 10T, and both differ from the previous formula. Given the strength of the job market and other factors, many consumers are managing their credit well. Late payment rates across all household debts are at their lowest levels since at least 2005. According to a recent analysis from Moody's Analytics, and credit scores have been trending higher. Parentheses, the last time the formula was tweaked was in 2014 and was expected to lift scores. I don't remember any of that. Even so, a significant number of lower and middle income Americans are struggling and consumer debt levels are quite high. And lenders are always trying to shield themselves from losses should economic conditions deteriorate. FICO says the new scores will make it easier for lenders to gauge a borrower's risk. Okay. Let's see. Hopefully we have enough time. What's changing? Some of the changes, like carrying a personal loan as well as credit card debt, affects both new scores, but there are more substantial changes involving the FICO 10T version. For example, instead of looking at just a static month of your balances, FICO 10T will look at the past 2 years or more, which will give lenders more insight into how you're managing your credit over time. That should mean your scores will better reflect the trajectory of your behavior. Alrighty, right on. And it goes on to say there are other changes too. FICO 10T will weigh recent missed payments more heavily and penalize those who use a high percentage of their overall available credit for long periods. That could have consequences for a person who leans on credit cards during times of distress like a job loss. But that person is probably a bad credit risk, unfortunately, said Chi-Chi Wu, a staff attorney at the National Consumer Law Center. She says she worried that lower scores for such consumers could add to their troubles, making car insurance more costly or hurting their chances of finding housing and making it harder for them to get back on their feet. Yeah, that credit score can fuck up people's lives, man. Excuse my language, but you gotta keep it good. Gotta keep it good. How and when will the changes affect me? Most consumers, or 110